Welcome to today's talk by Yvonne Larrier. Yvonne is an associate professor of counseling and in the Department of Counseling and Human Services. And when I asked her for a CV or some information that I could share today, because even though we've worked together for 9 years, Yvonne is one of the truly most humble people I have ever met. And I wanted some specific details on the amazing things she's done in the area and actually internationally. And so she didn't give me one, so I had to Google her. So here's my colleague of 9 years that I have Googled and found, among other things, that she is one of the founder of GC Scored, which is an international organization that is dedicated to improving the lives of children and communities through a holistic approach, particularly with mental health resources, and they offer trainings. They operate in 13 different countries. There's a focus on the Caribbean nations. They produce a peer-reviewed journal. And I was aware of this work prior to Googling it because she spends a lot of hours in her office really working very hard on this particular passion of hers. Yvonne is also very active in our community. She has recently joined the Mary Beck Lab School project. She's working with local area teachers and counselors on helping to help students with trauma and to learn again about teaching the whole person. This holistic approach is extremely important, doesn't do it justice. It is every fiber of Yvonne's being is this idea of looking at all of the needs of the person. So the presentation you're going to get today is going to touch a little bit about that. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Larrier.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So we're going to pretend that this room is full, okay? And there's a lot of energy because I don't like to just sit and talk. I like engaging. So today we're going to talk about the Cultivating Seeds system. And this is a system that I developed over many years of my professional life, even prior to coming to IUSB. My years as a practitioner informed the development of the Cultivating Seeds system. And I could say it's even before my years as a professional or a practitioner and scholar, my home that I was raised in the focus is very service oriented. And so everything I do is about how can I help somebody? How can I use what I have been given to make a difference in the world? And so when I do research, it's not just to have another publication on my CV. It really is, my research is very much community participatory based research that the goal is to transform lives and to create safer communities, which is my personal mission and also my organization's mission. And the focus today is on the Cultivating Seeds system and how we are wanting to be a part of the solution, As it says here, there are too many people across the globe who do not have access and therefore access to mental health and therefore do not receive treatment. There is a global mental health crisis. And these are the issues that fuel my passion and my mission. And like I said, my mission is to transform lives and create safer communities. So what is mental health? According to the mentalhealth.gov, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. So that's the mentalhealth.gov's definition. Now I'm going to show you a comparison because this is fundamental. What is social emotional competence? keep in mind what we just read about what the definition of mental health is. So social emotional competence is the ability to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect on the social and emotional aspects of one's life in ways that enable the successful management of life tasks, such as learning, forming relationships, solving everyday problems, and adapting to the complex demands of growth and development. Okay? I have this sandwiched in another definition of mental health, and there's a reason for that. According to the World Health Organization, mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Let me ask a quick question. Do you see any similarities between the definitions of mental health from the World Health Organization and from mentalhealth.gov? Do you see any similarities between those two mental health definitions and the definition of social emotional competence? What are some of the similarities you saw? What are some of those words?
Beyond feeling okay, able to cope, you are aware, you are reflective, you recognize. So it's not just being okay, it's realizing how you are.
Okay. And some other building blocks, yes?
I like that it does include the social as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's broad in a sense, but it can include addressing issues associated with gender discrimination, ethnic discrimination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So, and they have some of the similar building blocks, right? So social emotional competence obviously has the social component, the emotional component. It has the ability, talks about being able to manage life tasks, learning relationships, etc., adapting to complex demands of growth and development. And if you look at the mentalhealth.gov, their definition includes the emotional, the social, how they think, feel, act, making choices. If we look at the World Health Organization's definition, it talks about coping with normal stresses of life. So one of my questions is, and as we go through, we will talk about stigmatization. But my question right now is, why do we use the mental health language or label when we can use the social emotional competence label, especially knowing that just the label or the language of mental health is a barrier? And so that was one of my foundational questions that I asked myself. In order to be able to have access, and we'll talk about that, but in order to be able to increase access to individuals across the globe, to get them to seek help, mental health help, it is imperative that we use destigmatizing language. And so that's one of the principles or foundations on which the Cultivating Seed system is built. In our system, and you have a diagram, you will not see any reference to mental health. And that is very intentional because we do not want, our goals, one of our goals is access, to create access. Okay, so we'll move right along. So mental health impacts all. And I watched a video, a YouTube video with Lynn Fredley, and she says, mental health impacts us all. The promotion of emotional well-being should be a universal public health concern. This is so, I was like, wow. Everyone has mental health needs, whether or not they have a mental illness. Just as everyone has physical health needs, whether or not they're sick. Okay? And another one of my favorite statements is there's no health without mental health. Welcome. Okay? So all of us sitting in this room we have physical needs, right? Well, we also have mental health needs. This is another way of making this whole mental health discussion universal, as well as something that is inclusive and not stigmatizing. So what are the issues? The issues are, there are three issues. Mental health disorders are the leading causes of disability worldwide. The resources required to address these conditions are inadequate, unequally distributed, inefficiently used, and static. And also there's a lack of access. And there's this phraseology in, or terminology in public health and also in mental health across the globe that is known as task sharing. And you will see that the intervention component of the Cultivating Seed system is based in that whole task sharing idea. And I'll talk some more about that. So I'm giving you some going a little deeper with the issues. So here are the leading causes, some of the leading causes. Nearly 30% of people in the world, approximately 83 million, experience a mood, anxiety, or substance use disorder in their lifetime. In the United States, approximately 1 in 5 youth aged 13 to 18 experiences a severe mental disorder at some point during their life. For children 8 to 15, the estimate is 13%. Of the youth in the U.S. juvenile justice system, 70% have at least one mental health condition, and at least 20% live with a serious mental illness. Also in the U.S., almost 1 in 5 adults, that's almost 44 million people, experience some form of mental illness in any given year. Keep in mind, these are the issues that propelled me to develop this Cultivating Seed system. The resources are inadequate. In wealthy countries, up to 60% of people with severe mental disorders do not, I repeat, do not receive the care they need. That's 6 out of 10. And the wealthy countries, including the US, right? High income countries is what we call it in public health as well. And one of the things about the Cultivating Seed system, if you see the logo, it says every piece matters. It is definitely a transdisciplinary system. GC Scored is a transdisciplinary organization because we believe every piece matters. And I am not just an academic. I have a social part of my development. I have a spiritual part. And I look at, like Hope said earlier, I look at everything in a systematic way. And I look at a person's development from a comprehensive, holistic, systematic way. And I believe that if any type of wholeness is to be attained, I believe all stakeholders, whether it's individual wholeness, organization, community, anything that has to happen, all the pieces must be fully engaged in order for wholeness to be attained. And so there are only 9 mental health providers per 100,000 people globally, and an extra 1.7 million mental health workers are needed in low and middle income countries alone. Nearly 1/3 of the US population lacks adequate access to mental health care, and only 41% of adults in the US with a mental health condition received mental health services in 2014. Among adults with a serious mental illness, 62.9% received mental health services in that year. So reading this, and like I said earlier, I come from a background, a home environment, and a culture and a subculture that is my brain, my being, my reason for being is when you see a problem, how do you help fix it? So this is not just, I wasn't just gathering information just to say, oh yeah, I know all this stuff. Really, that doesn't really matter what I know. It's what I do with what I know. Okay, so some more staggering statistics. Again, follow me. All of this is helping build the whole cultivating seed system. 75% of those in lower resource settings and 40 to 60% of people in HICs, which is high income countries, do not receive the care they need. According to the World Health, this is very similar figures. 10 to 20% of children and adolescents experience mental health issues. Half of all mental illnesses begin by the age of 14. 30% of people globally experience a mood disorder. 1/3 of the US population lacks adequate access to mental health care providers. By the year 2020, depression will be the second leading cause of disability throughout the world. 5 of the top 10 global contributors to years lived with disability are mental disorders. So there is depression and anxiety. Those are right at the top of that 5. Costs associated with these and other mental health disorders are enormous. And by 2013, the cost is projected to be what? 6 trillion. Yeah. So barriers to treatment. Barriers to treatment. Treatments do exist, but there are so many barriers like stigma and discrimination, insufficient financial resources, shortage of mental health care specialists, and treatment gaps. In high-income countries, an estimated 2 out of 10 adults with common mental health disorders receive care from a mental health specialist in any given year. In low and middle-income countries, there is 1 psychiatrist for every 10 million people seeking help. We produce counselors over here in the School of Ed, and it does not even begin to touch. It helps, and so seeing this, I'm like, I have to do more. And that's one of the reasons why I came into academia. I remember in my job talk, when I had to do that presentation in this very room, I talked about moving from downstream to upstream because I wanted to make a bigger impact. I worked in multiple settings. I worked in schools, I worked in public community counseling organizations, I worked in foster care, juvenile hospitals. The only place I haven't worked, the only setting I have not worked in my 30 plus years as a counselor, mental health practitioner is in the prisons. That's the only setting. And I was like, what can I do to get more people to receive help that I'm giving? And so I figured, okay, I'll leave from the practitioner, the setting of the civilian, and come to higher ed so that I can teach more people so that way more people can go out and do. Then getting all of this information, I'm like, what else can I do? Something else has to be done. And so Erica, actually, she may not even know, but she was kind of like in the beginning stages of when I started on this campus asking those questions. How else can I, have my tentacles and my concepts reach more people? And so when I started that research, I got it from OVPIA in Bloomington, and I started that research for school counseling in the Caribbean. That was when I said, okay, I need to expand, and that's when GC Squad really got started with that research, finding out so many.
That was a fun IRB,
Wasn't it? It was. I did, 5 different countries, children. It was something. It was a learning experience for both of us. It was a learning experience for both of us. And doing that research, interviewing kids, interviewing people who work with children in different parts of the world, these are not just statistics. I actually saw this stuff in real time. One of the trainings I did, one of the workshops I did when I was in the Caribbean, when I was on sabbatical, was on child abuse. April is the Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I did about 10 workshops across the Caribbean, across about 5 or 6 Caribbean countries. And 1 in 2 girls were sexually molested. 1 in 7 boys. That's not even as bad as, the worst part for me was treatment. 0. None of those people received any type of counseling or intervention. None. And so I can't keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. I don't have money, but I have knowledge. I have experience, and I can talk. And so I said, something has to be done. And so this is why, again, I'm trying to let you see the case for Cultivating Seed System, where it came from. Some more barriers. Current resources available to address mental health issues are inadequate, unequally distributed, inaccessible, inefficiently used, and static. We just talked about this definition, but something else I want to show you here. Countries classified as LAMICs, which is low and middle income countries, spend less than $2 US per person. While in the US and other HICs, expenditure is estimated to be over $50 per person. Low and middle income countries require help from all individuals, institutions, systems, and countries to help with the mental health issues. So they do exist. Treatments, I did that already, oops. Destigmatizing. So one of the issues that is, like I said earlier, one of the big barriers, one of the big issues that people across the globe, even in this country, face is getting, or what we call help-seeking behaviors, going to get help. The stigma is too great. And even in our society, in these times, where mental health is being blamed for violence, that is another stigma that is creating another layer of barrier for people who have a simple or common mental health disorder. Because imagine you may be feeling down or depressed, and you don't want to tell anybody because right now in the media, mental health issues are equated with violence. So therefore you won't go and get help. And so it's important, it's very important that we watch, we tell our little children, watch your language. But we need to watch our language because it is a huge barrier to preventing individuals from receiving the help they need. Persons who have a mental illness already perceive themselves in a negative way. And they also are perceived by others in a negative way. Our society, even practitioners, even mental health practitioners or physical health practitioners, doctors and nurses, they also perpetuate the whole stigma based on the language and how we treat individuals with mental illnesses. You may ask, well, how do they do that? For example, somebody comes into the hospital with some type of physical issue. And as they talk, the doctors or the nurse may talk some more with the patient, they walk away, but not too far away from the client, from the patient, and says, ooh, she got some issues. I don't think it's just physical. I think the patient hears that. What kind of feeling would that give you if you were to hear your provider say something like that? What do you think? How would you feel? Huh?
You probably will come back. But I was also thinking, you were asking me why do we do that? I think it's something innate in every profession. I think teachers do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think scientists do it. I think MDs, psychiatrists. I think maybe because we're so, when you're in a field, you're so comfortable with it, and we say things, it affects us when we, like, if a counselor should say, oh, that person has issues. Even if the person didn't hear that, it affects you as a
Mm-hmm.
counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Because it changes
Your perception,
mindset of how
exactly.
you're seeing that person.
Exactly.
I think the MDs do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Someone comes with physical ailments because they see it so often, they become
Immune to.
and it's like, another sick person.
Mm-hmm.
So that we as professionals have to change how
We,
think about it
exactly.
before we can impact.
Other people. Absolutely. Thank you. So choice of words is critical. So call to action. When it comes to mental health, all countries are developing countries. All countries are developing countries. Stigma has been identified as one of the leading causes of individuals not receiving the care they need. And task sharing, destigmatizing mental illness, creating access, requires full engagement globally from stakeholders at every level. We have the global mental health crisis demands trained mental health specialists, concerned and committed lay people, practitioners, researchers, policymakers, philanthropists, government and non-governmental organizations from both HICs and LAMICs to work together with one goal in mind, and that is to increase access to culturally responsive mental health services by any means necessary.
As an anthropologist, I really appreciate that last statement about the culturally responsive care that's needed. And I'd actually argue in our society, in Western developed countries, we still take this more treatment-oriented approach towards mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I, once in a while, put on my public health hat and remember that it should be more prevention-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like that figure you put up in by the 2020, 2030,
Mm.
high percentage of people that will have depression.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Exactly.
Because they're in like.
See if we can get ahead of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Is there some increase?
Exactly.
Overdiagnosis or maybe underdiagnosis? What's causing this? I think we need to look more into that. We may have to turn more so the answer may lie with policymakers. They create conditions that create more depression.
Mm-hmm.
So these more multidisciplinary approaches
Mm-hmm.
that you mentioned. But then there's the issues of power.
Mm-hmm.
Who benefits from the current policy?
Exactly.
Who suffers from the
Yeah.
particular situation?
Mm-hmm.
And so even the data you talk about as far as the lower income countries,
Uh-huh.
their public health systems are already weak, and so of course their mental health.
Of course.
systems are weak. So
Exactly.
it's a symptom of their
Exactly.
system, and so how do you change that?
Mhm.
I think that should be the focus.
Yeah. And so, my response. How do we change that? So all those questions, I'm reading and just inundating myself with information across the globe is what, again, propels me, is what I wake up in the morning and go to bed at night and during the day. So here are the responses. So the Cultivating Seed System framework, it includes the Roomatime process, and I'll explain that in a minute, which is a scalable, culturally responsive intervention, which is, you came to the same conclusion before you saw this, which means, we know that's what we need. you know, and there are other people out there who are thinking the same way. And my advice is use what you have in your hands to make a difference. Then we also have the Journal of Global Engagement and Transformation, which is, IU South Bend has it on their website, but also it's the transdisciplinary journal, peer-reviewed. We have, 20-something peer reviewers, that focuses on social emotional competencies in all different settings. And we're right now accepting manuscripts. The deadline is April 30th. We're in our second volume, so keep that in mind. So the Cultivating Seed System, the goals, and you should all have one of the flyers with the diagram. The goals then, after all of that information, this is how I came up with the goals: to increase access so that individuals in diverse settings globally will acquire mindsets, attitudes, relationships, resources, knowledge, skills, strategies associated with healthy social emotional development. Note, I'm not using the term mental illness or mental health, because a part of increasing access is destigmatizing. Part of destigmatizing is the language. So that's goal 1. Goal 2 is to assist individuals in the effective utilization of the social emotional competencies in transforming lives and creating safer communities. It is great to give access. It is even better to teach people how to use what they've gotten access to, right? If you remember in one of the earlier slides, it talked about, let's see if I could find it. Yeah, inaccessibility, inefficiently used, right? That's another barrier. And so the Cultivating Seed system was very intentional about making sure that the goals are responding to the crisis, right? Are responding to the crisis. And 2 of the areas. We can't cover everything, but we've chosen 2 goals to work on as access and assisting individuals in the effective utilization of these competencies. Because we believe at the core of common mental health issues, at the core of a person's development, are those 5 social emotional competencies, which we will talk about. So the definition for the Cultivating Seed System framework is, and if you can read it with me, it's on your handout, on this beautiful handout. And it says, it's an organizing framework that, could you guys read together out loud? It's an organizing framework that uses social emotional competencies and the social determinants of a person's life course to explain human behavior. It does this by identifying culturally responsive approaches that influences and transforms lives and communities. Wonderful. Very good readers. Yay. It is. It is. So what I could do, I have, maybe I could kind of give you some activity to, as we, hands-on, minds-on. I know Gwen knows a lot about hands-on, minds-on. So get into a group. I have a puzzle, right? So get into a group of 4, and you guys, and put this puzzle together. The puzzle is, yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is fun, but fun as you learn. You learn about the cultivating seed system. Right, so we just talked about the definition, we talked about the goals. And so what I want you to do is start looking for the pieces that have the definition and the goals. And start putting those together. Start looking for those. The definition and the goals. You can use your handout too. Keep it in front of you. Yeah.
Here's another corner. Here's O's. So you really just want us to do you don't want us to actually put it together?
Not yet. Put it, yeah. So put those pieces together, right? So put the goal, the definition and the goals. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Look for the beige. Look for the beige. Look for the beige.
Smaller than ours, yeah. Well, okay, then those should pop right in.
So you found the goals and the definition? All right. You guys got the goals and the... All right. Cool. Everybody should have the goals and definitions. All right. So let's keep going, and I'll ask you to put the other pieces together soon. So, so the cultivating seeds system, in addition to being based on, needs in our global society, is also based. I used the agriculture metaphor. Why do you think I used that? Who can? I've given you a lot of background on. Yeah. Why do you think? Talking about, okay, that's one, but why do you think I... Little things grow into big things. Transformation. Also, Marianne, you wanted to say something? Growth, okay. Good. The main reason I used an agricultural metaphor is because agriculture is universal. Again, my goal is to be inclusive. And my work span is global, and everybody, any part of the earth knows what dirt is. They know what a tree is. And the thing about it is, as far as I know, I've done some research, as far as I know, there are no biases or discriminatory practices associated with dirt or natural habitat. It's kind of like the air. Nobody can claim it's theirs. And so with that, I said I wanted to use a metaphor that would be everybody across the globe can understand and relate to. And so we have, in that agricultural metaphor, we have seeds, and seeds are the social emotional competencies, and we'll talk about that later. So SEED stands for Social Emotional Education in Diverse Settings. Saplings, those are the individuals between 18 to 24. The seedlings are the little babies, the K to 18. The sowers are the people like you and I who provide, who sow, right? The people who plant the seeds, people who nurture, people who cultivate. Then we have the essential growth elements. What are the essential growth elements in nature? What are some of those things? Air, water, fertilizer. What if you were to make that comparison, essential growth elements for us in our humans as we develop would be what? A loving, nurturing environment, people who speak, you know, exactly, compassion. Sometimes it could be our peers. Then pollen. I know you might think, well, why words? One of the things I found is people have a very difficult time, and it doesn't matter where, finding words to express emotion, finding words to express thoughts. What happens especially in schools and also in homes where there's a lot of violence, one of the issues, I'm not saying all, one of the issues is the lack of the appropriate vocabulary, words to express. And so people become frustrated. And what they do? When a baby is frustrated, they cry, they throw tantrums, and it frustrates the other people around because they don't know what the child wants. Giving people the vocabulary and the correct vocabulary helps reduce one's anxiety. It helps people to be able to manage themselves better relationship management skills, helps with decision-making skills, okay? So it's all connected. Let's go across, let me see. See if you can find the pieces. You guys finished yours?
Yeah.
Overachievers. See if they didn't follow directions. So see if you can find, you guys take it apart and start over again. See if you can find the agricultural metaphor and the seeds and put that together. Those of you who follow directions.
Yes. We have
a high need for closure. We got a high need for closure.
Is that what it is?
We have to get that next.
Oh my God. So see, agricultural metaphor. It's important that you know yourself, right? So self-awareness. You guys knew your strengths. You needed closure, and it so happened that all of you in the same group have that same need. Okay, did you guys find it?
Yes.
Just right. And now I'm going to go to the 5 theories that. So the 5 theories that I used in the CSS framework, the ecological systems theory, Erickson's 8-stage psychosocial development, strengths-based approach, social learning, and cognitive behavior therapy. The first 4 are very systems-oriented, where there is a interconnectivity and bi-directionality of what I do impacts you, and once that gets shifted around, this whole system gets shifted around. And so that's the kind of world we live in. You know, our bodies, we have multiple systems just within ourselves, right? Marlene could tell us, Miss Molecular Geneticist, about the different body systems that we have that function. And so we, in different ecosystems, because we are in multiple ecosystems at the same time, we have to look at the individuals we work with from an ecological systems approach. When we go into different countries, or even into different schools, like, you know, or communities that we work in, we have to be able to get a good understanding of a holistic understanding of all the different systems, all the different pieces that are at play in order for us to effectively, adequately, and fairly provide some type of intervention or prevention. And so that's why we do the ecological systems. Then we also know that Erik Erikson's psychosocial development stages, what happens in your ecosystem affects you differently at different stages in your development. Then a strengths-based approach. I believe in, again, language and what your mindset is. What you believe about people is how you're going to treat people. Our belief is that every person has innate abilities and strengths and resources that they can use and they have been using to get to wherever they are. We may, because of our different value systems, we may think, well, that's not a strength. It is. The gang banger on the street, the opioid addicts down the street here in South Bend, they have strengths. They have strengths. And what we do when I do trainings for the prevention and intervention specialists, we do an assessment of individuals' strengths. Not saying that we don't look at the deficits, but we look at their strengths because people are going to be more open getting access. People are going to be more open when you look at them and see, oh, you're really good at X, Y, and Z. What else? How did you get to this point? What are some of the strengths that you use? And so that's what we do when we're working with clients. Cognitive behavior therapy, we know that how you think, in fact, how you feel, and how you feel, etc. All right, so those are the 5 theories, and of course, social emotional competencies, which is the ability to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect the social and emotional aspects of one's life. Individuals are then able to skillfully relate to and successfully navigate self, others, and situations across diverse settings during their life course. And then we use the five core social emotional competencies: self-awareness skills, social awareness, relationship management skills, self-management, and healthy decision-making. At the core of all our relationships, whether it's within us or amongst us, you can tag, as they say, you can tag one of those or all of those 5 social emotional competencies. That's at the core of mental health. The ability to be aware of yourself, the ability to see things from the other perspective, social awareness, relationship, how do I relate to you? How do I influence you, or how do you influence me? Self-management, how do I behave when I am in X, Y, or Z? Is my behavior interrupting, preventing my ability to grow and develop in a healthy manner? And my ability to make healthy decisions, all of the prior ones are dependent on the healthy decision making. If you don't know yourself, you're going to continue to make bad decisions. If you're only thinking about yourself, you're going to continue to make unhealthy decisions, okay? All right, so then we have social determinants. Those are the conditions necessary for developing social emotional competencies in individuals. So the social determinants of mental health are home, school, community, where you love, live, learn, and work, okay? Those are the social determinants of development of mental health. Where we go to school, where we work, and where we live, where we love. Then the levels of engagement. This is the who of the CSS framework. The individual client, the family, the school, diverse work settings, and the community as the client. So those are the different public. So those are the different clientele, right? Those are the different ways that we engage with the cultivating seeds, with individuals, the families, schools, etc. And then we have units of activity. we call, in counseling, mental health, there's a treatment, and physical health, there's a treatment plan. But because we believe in the strengths-based approach, we call it the treatment plan, we call it a growth and development plan. And we've since added multiple units of activity. I have just a few of the things that I've been working on. The puzzle you played with and engaged with today is also a part of the units of activity. Then finally, the intervention. This is the piece that is culturally responsive, and this is the piece that right now I'm working in Benton Harbor, and I'm also working at Mary Beck, teaching teachers and people who have no understanding of counseling how to use this intervention to work with children, adults, across different age groups, but K-12 especially. And we have data that supports that the intervention is working. And that is, I'm excited about it. I know it works, but the powers that be want to know that it works, and I have the information for the powers that be. So the Roomatime process is called Roomatime, and it stands for, who wants to take a guess?
Oh.
You want to take a guess? Okay, go for it.
So recognize, understand.
Look at you. Awesome. You can read. Yay. So Roomatime is pronounced Roomatime. And some people are tempted to say Rama, but it's Rooma, like room. All right, it's a 5-step psychosocial problem-solving strategy that helps persons move from a position of inter- and intrapersonal imbalance to intra- and interpersonal balance. And that, my friends, is the definition of mental health without using the terminology mental health. So let me just say, in some subcultures, I know I talk for the Caribbean. I also know for some subcultures in this country as well. When you go in and say, "Oh, yeah, you couldn't come in for counseling," people don't want to come. Right. When I see it happening in Benton Harbor all the time. When I say, "Oh, you're going to go into the daytime intervention room to meet with the Roomatime intervention specialist," it's very innocuous. They don't use any terminology associated with counseling. They don't see it as, "Oh, I'm in trouble." "Oh, just come. We're going to learn how to get along with people. You're going to learn about yourself." No mention. And the receptivity to that is amazing. Okay, and so I implore you to do a few things. To think about what you have in your hands, what you can do to make a difference. People are struggling, people are suffering. You can take one of these. These are symbolic seeds that you could use as planting. And the rest of you can finish your puzzle, please. You have 2 minutes. You're done. Any questions? You have seeds?
Did you get
No, I don't.
You don't plan?
I don't feel green things.
I was being
She
too-
doesn't plan.
I was being too introverted.
You guys got these already?
If it was up to me.
Any questions?
Like April, May.
Okay. This is the kind of thing that, we're supposed to
Yes,
be.
they're in. And these are giant ones.
Project, is it, in retirement, this is the sort of thing I'm interested in doing.
Yeah.
I'm down in Tennessee, but I've got all these connections, like working with women and children in particular. And this is the basic approach philosophy that I believe in, so
Yeah.
I'm taking off.
Take it and check out the website and submit a manuscript. We're looking for people to submit manuscripts.
Mission date is do-gooder.
Then
What's the deadline for?
April 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, April 30th. I also wrote and published published on Amazon some coloring and activity books. For all ages, and it uses the rheumatoid process.
Okay.
So it's not just a coloring book; it is a coloring book with purpose, and it's very intentional in
So
terms
if we're on
of
Amazon and we search for rheumatoid.
just rheumatoid. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And again, as part of Yvonne's humility, she generously donated an entire set of these to the teachers at Merrimack as part of their.
Oh, you're so sweet. And so there are lots of games that working on the in terms of I don't know, there's so much that I can tell you, but that's it. So any questions? I haven't seen you in forever.
I do have a question.
Yes.
I do have a question.
Oh, go ahead, you go.
No,
I'd
go
like to
ahead,
talk
go
to her down the hall.
You talked about the stigma, and earlier I think I missed part of your, well, I didn't miss part of your presentation, when you talked about the numbers. And would technology be something that can help, perhaps an app that is primarily based on a phone, to be able to provide some aspects of these to people who are who don't have access to that 1 to 10 million that we're talking
Right.
about?
Yeah.
I think closing that is going
It's
to be a
critical.
long-term process.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to be doing this until I die. And hope to, I don't have children, so I hope to bequeath it to somebody else who would carry the mantle. But yeah, technology I think would be great. I'm a part of the Mental Health Innovation Network. It's an organization that is sponsored by Cambridge University, Oxford, and some other, some other people, big name people. And they have, every month they send out different ways that people are trying to close the gap. And some of them I've seen is through using technology. And one of my goals eventually is to get the rheumatoid process intervention on people's phones so that they can basically self-heal. You can self-soothe, so that you don't have to wait 10 years to get some help. In Zimbabwe, they have what they call a friendship bench therapy, where they train grandmothers in the community. You've heard of it?
No, it seems like the use of traditional healers. I was going to
Right.
bring up that, so that's kind of a way to incorporate them. in.
Yeah, and so they train these grandmothers in whatever the friendship bench therapy, because in Zimbabwe they have like 19 mental health practitioners for over whatever the population is. I think is about 30 million people. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and people need help. So what do they just die? And so these grandmothers are train and put in different, to have benches, literal benches, that people know if they go sit there, one of the grandmothers is going to come and provide them with the support. And they have research that shows that it is making a difference. And it's phenomenal. And so, yeah, maybe you and I can do some work.
Alexa for.
Yeah, we can do some work on coming up with a software, app. Yeah, I would love that. Hope?
It is 1 o'clock, so, and I know that folks wanted to grab lunch before Senate, so thank you very much for a fabulous presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.